In the first scene, an old guy called Pop owns a barber shop in Manhattan. He is talking about the New York Knicks and using profanity. A powerful black caretaker named Luke Cage is also presented to us. Shortly later, Luke receives a flirtatious invitation for coffee from a lady who happens to stroll in. Luke and Pop had a brief exchange as a result of Pop knowing about Reva. Later, when Luke's wife passes away, the old guy approaches Luke in secret and attempts to motivate him to keep moving ahead and go on with his life. After they get back from their chat, we find out that Pop is the only one who is aware of Luke's skills outside of floor sweeping, and they are both ex-cons. Luke works a second job at the posh nightclub Paradise in Harlem, which serves the black elite of the city. He encounters Connie, his landlady and owner of a Chinese restaurant, his route to his destination. He gets some more time this particular night when he's placed on bartending, despite her request for the rent. Duty as a result of Dante, a co-worker failing to report for duty. The proprietor of Harlem's Paradise, Cornell Stokes, is then presented to us. He is talking to Mariah about his developing abilities. Moments later, he also makes an agreement with Domingo Colon, which Cornell offers to sell 10 boxes of grade-level firearms created by Justin Hammer for $100,000 each. But the real sale, which is happening somewhere else, is spoiled when Chico Dante, Shamik, and 2 other guys in masks open fire on shop employees and murder everyone. Unexpectedly, Cornell would suspect an inside job at Harlem's Paradise, so Shamik unintentionally shoots Dante as well. While keeping an eye on Cornell, a lady called Misty Knight is served a drink by Luke. The owner offers Luke a job if he's prepared to carry a pistol shortly after he's assigned to serve champagne to Cornell's table during this, but Luke turns him down back at the murder scene. Dante makes it long enough to give Tone, Cornell's right-hand guy, a call, upsetting the festive atmosphere outside the club. When Luke encounters Misty once again, they engage in flirty banter. They return to his apartment after their entertaining talk, where they ultimately make love. When he wakes up the next morning, Misty informs him about conversing in his dreams and mentions the names Shades and Comanche. Later that night, he dreams about being abused in jail. Before leaving, she gets a call from work and gets ready to go. When Luke asks what her job is, she tells him she's an auditor, but in actuality, she's a detective working on a case involving a recent murder. After that, she shows up to the murder site, where Raphael Scarf, a detective, is already working the case. Raphael thinks about talking to the barman who covered for Dante at the club while he's doing his investigation. Conversely, Cornell is making futile attempts to mend his differences with Domingo, but things escalate when Shades Alvarez arrives. Shades seems to be a previous co-worker of Cornell's who is now employed by the influential company Diamondback. While Pop is upset that Dante, one of the children who used to work for him, has passed away, he reassures Cornell that Diamondback does not want him to succeed in a takeover. Since Shamik and Chico were his sons somewhere, he is certain that they were with him. When Shades shows up, Mariah is seen conducting a news conference to support Harlem Cornell. We discovered from their talk that Mariah funds Cornell's club with federal and state funds. She is now requesting her money back, threatening to go to prison over an audit. Cornell assures her that he will give it back to her later. Shamik is located and brought to the club by those who are aware of him and Chico. Having seen this, Luke tries to assist him, but is thwarted when he sees Shades from Seagate Prison. Following that, Cornell begins asking Shamik where Chico is, to which Shamik responds by spitting blood on him. The child is then fatally beaten by an enraged Cornell using just his bare fists in the other hand. Luke seems terrified because of Shades, but he cools himself by thinking that Shades may not have seen him. He then reads through a variety of books which triggers a memory of their first encounter when he was incarcerated. The next scenario finds Luke intervening just after Mariah's goons try to extort money from Connie and her husband. Unaware of his powers, Luke first cautions the goons. They are not harsh with him. A guy strikes Luke's face with such force that his bones break. Luke blocks the shot with his bare hand as someone tries to shoot him. The incident's aftermath sees the surviving two flee in fear after seeing everything. Luke says he's not for sale anyway, rejecting Connie's offer to employ him to keep an eye out for the thugs in case they return. "I'll get you the next day at the barber shop," he promises the landlord. Pop attempts to persuade Luke into using his gift for the sake of others once again. Pops gives him a rundown on Mariah's influence in the town and explains that Cornell is her cousin. The old man knows that Cornell would come seeking for Chico, and sure enough he does, along with Shades and Tone, a few seconds later. When Cottonmouth settles into Pop's chair, a foreboding tension takes hold. He demands a clean shave, and every step he makes raises the risk of violence. Shades approaches Luke more directly to find out where Chico is, to which Luke simply replies that people come and go without any information being gathered. The gang is about to leave when Luke confronts Cornell about not paying for the shave Tone. Cornell turns around, looks down on Luke, and throws a wad of bills at Pop. Pop urges Luke to locate Chico as they go out so he can arrange a parlay with Cornell. Pop tells Luke that he's in debt and that he plans to collect when he attempts to deny him. When Misty visualizes the scenario of the failed gun trade, she understands that Chico was too aggressive and close to Shamik to allow him to kill him. Later, she shows up on a basketball court with Raphael to question Chico about his whereabouts. She dares one of the men to a name of Horse for the knowledge when none of them are prepared to talk. As Luke searches for Chico in the meantime, he discovers Cornell is on his way to see Mariah. Tension arises between them as a consequence of Cornell's apparent attempt to provide some of the money he had obtained from Shamik, but it is not enough. After 2 hours, Luke locates Chico and tells him that Pop wants him to come back, but the young man refuses to comply. When Luke sees Pop, he remembers his former life. It is revealed that the sound his fists produced when he beat someone before going to prison is why he got the moniker Pop. He liked to go on walks around the neighborhood with Cornell and Fredo, Chico's father. After chatting for a time, they go inside to see Chico, who is crying, entering via the back door. Chico is hiding in the back of the store when Turk, an untrustworthy-looking customer, notices him. It doesn't seem safe for Chico to stay there because Turk will sell that intel shortly after Misty and Raphael visit Pop's shop to ask about Chico, so Pop hides the boy in the toilet before going to talk to the detectives. Luke is taken aback by her presence and shows no reluctance to express his dislike for her. He skillfully manages the issue by persuading the investigators that he has no knowledge of her until they go. Luke works at the same club as Pop, so he agrees to meet Cornell on Pop's behalf. Before leaving his position at Harlem's Paradise, Luke convinces Cornell to accept a parlay. Tone also gets a message from Turk at the same moment, telling him about Chico. Luke informs Cornell about it as soon as he leaves, but he tells him to forget about it since he'll deal with it in the morning. In spite of this, Pop is cutting a child's hair in his store, so Tone and Shade drive there. Tone and Shade arrive at the same moment as Chico exits from behind, and Lonnie Luke emerges. After that, Tone murders almost everyone inside the barber shop while positioned in front of it with 2 machine guns. After demolishing the whole institution, Luke tells the little boy to act dead as he covers Pop from a bullet wound to the neck. As soon as they're gone, Tone and Shade take in the surroundings before grabbing the cash Chico took. Luke rushes to his dying father, Pop, who is crying over him as he says his last words. The constant whispers of his death broke something within Luke, making it impossible for him to continue playing it safe. After the incident, the police look into Pop's barber shop in an environment that is more creatively technically inclined. Staring at Luke's torn shirt, Misty is taken aback by the tale of how he protected the child. Cornell stayed in the club all night, so the cops had no leads. When Tone and Shades rejoin Cornell and Mariah on the roof that same evening, Tone tells them how he broke in, burned up the establishment, and made off with the money. When Cornell hears of Pop's passing, something within of him unravels, and he tosses Tone over the roof, seeing her cousin's imperiled kingdom despite his anger. He even calms down when he muses aloud about secretly contributing to Pop so he may rebuild the business. In the next scene, Cornell asserts that he wants the type of legacy that can only be enjoyed by the living, to which Mariah responds that this is not what their ancestors sacrificed for and that she just wants respect. Luke is standing some distance away from Mariah's building when a kid approaches him from behind and brandishes a pistol, calling him an offender of the N-word. The youngster is scared and runs away as Luke turns around, grabs the pistol, and shoots himself. Luke finally understands a crucial fact. Black resistance cannot survive without rage because it is a potent fuel. We meet Cornell and Luke the next morning. Luke then goes to the mortuary to talk to the funeral home and Pop about getting a coffin. Luke finds the gaudy, disgusting coffin that the undertaker suggests, but he does not have the money to cover Pop's casket. We discovered that the undertaker at Cornell disposes of corpses. At that moment, Cornell enters and says he will take care of everything. After exchanging words, Cornell informs him that while his former associate behaved inappropriately, she is no longer involved in acting. Luke feels that he is ultimately still to blame. After learning of Luke's wish to keep the barbershop running, Bobby Fish, a chess player who used to play with Pop, joins Luke as he goes to the barbershop. It would need $80,000 to purchase the business, according to Fish, who handled Pop's taxes, but no one would question them if they paid the expenses. Luke then makes the decision to steal the money from Cornell, but rather than confronting him head-on, he intends to remove his Queen Knight's rooks and ultimately all of his pieces from the board. Soon after Luke arrives, Misty and Raphael interview Chico, who is furious over Pop's murder but won't speak out against Cornell. They also briefly chat with Misty, who asks Luke about his involvement in all of this, but he won't say anything. Following this, he speaks with Chico one-on-one and gains insight into the inner workings of Cornell's operations. After that, he wants to hit the spots so Cornell would think Domingo is hitting him. When he does ultimately unleash pure hell, it's more because of his wits than because of his unbreakable physique. Luke strikes Cornell's 4 stash homes with caution, eliminating the goons and their weapons but leaving the money for the police to locate. This compels Cornell, despite Mariah's desires, to transfer everything to Crispus Attucks and strengthen him. She is opposed to Cornell because she is determined that Crispus Attucks become a recognized community for affordable housing. Domingo approaches Cornell at Harlem's Paradise in the evening, informing him he knows Diamondback was responsible for the weapons shipment and requesting his money back. Cornell protests that there aren't any reimbursements and asks if he acknowledges to robbing his stash homes, but Domingo brushes him off and turns to face the Spanish. When Night Luke discovers the money being transported to the Fort Knox chamber at Crispus Attucks, he is outside of Mariah's office. He waits for Mariah to disappear before using an SUV door to force his way inside. After beating up a few of the guards with the vehicle door, he wraps it around a man and throws him down the steps. After removing a pipe from a wall, he starts assaulting more guys until he finds his way to the vault. He kills everyone, but he only grabs one bag of cash and runs away before the cops, who are looking into the recent gunfight case, show up. Shortly after, Raphael gets a call from Chico wanting to talk to him. Misty has her suspicion on Luke. After this, Raphael travels to a secluded road where he meets Chico, who tells him that he's given up on Cornell and has decided to turn himself in to the police. Suddenly, Raphael kills him by strangling him with his tie. After packing the corpse into his truck, he drives to Harlem's Paradise. In addition to revealing that Luke has been hitting his spots all day, he gives Cornell Chico's corpse. It seems like Raphael has been working with Cornell the whole time. Luke gives Bobby Fish the money in the duffel bag so that the barber shop may continue to operate. Following a short exchange of words, he gives Connie the money he owes her and has supper at her restaurant. Luke witnesses Cornell shooting at him with a rocket launcher from the roof across the street shortly after, and he has enough time to get up before the whole structure explodes.